Peace, y'all. I'm Rob Evans, and this is Just Curious, where questions are the compass. Since the last episode, life's been moving, and so have I. Time passed, life kept unfolding, and the questions kept showing up. I don't know what I'm going to do with them all, because I call myself making this a weekly or bi-weekly podcast, but if you see how many questions I've written down between our last session and now, it makes me wonder if this should be something else. But for now, it is what it is. As I mentioned, this episode begins a 3-part series I'm calling What's Next. And what's next is an exploration of the purpose, identity that we all have and how we keep moving when the ground shifts beneath us. So for today's guiding question, I think it's this. Who are you becoming now that you're no longer who you were? And admittedly, I think that each day we have an opportunity to strive to be the person that we want to be. So that means we can be better than we were yesterday. And if we were better than we were yesterday and the day before, again, we're becoming. So who are you becoming now that you're no longer who you were? And to frame this, I think it's just really important. I set the stage, and I have a quote to do that. I'll use a couple quotes throughout this particular episode. But this quote in particular really resonates, and it's from our good buddy James Baldwin. Quote, "You have to go the way your blood beats. If you don't live the only life you have, you won't live some other life. You won't live any life at all." Close quote. I'm going to read that one more time. You have to go the way your blood beats. If you don't live the only life you have, you won't live some other life. You won't live any life at all. That line hits hard, particularly for me right now. There's this quiet dissonance when you realize you're no longer who you were, but you haven't quite figured out who you're becoming. You don't have a plan, but your body knows, your soul knows, your blood knows. Sometimes I think that my head is still catching up to what the rest of me already decided months ago. You know, thinking about this, where, my body is catching up or my brain is catching up. Either way, there's a lot of catching up that needs to happen when you feel out of balance. I used to, I've said it to folks, and those folks that know me, I'm sure have heard me say this, but for years, I've said people and places come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And when I think about that, if it's a reason, it's my hope that you find the why and let it teach you. That's always my hope, that you know the reason, your purpose, right, if you will. If it's a season, I hope that you have the opportunity to notice how it blooms, changes, and fades when that particular work is done, when it's time to move on. And if it's a lifetime, its meaning often unfolds slowly, revealing itself in moments you didn't know you were connected until you look back. Moments you didn't, yeah. So when you think about those things, you see a series of things. Oh, this is how it connects, right? So right now I'm standing at the edge of what's next, listening for the reason it mattered and for the lifetime lessons I'm meant to carry forward. But they don't always come easy. And sometimes you don't know which one it is, reason, season, or lifetime, until you're looking in the rearview mirror, And I think often, as part of this transition, as part of this conversation, I'm thinking about all of the different roles that I play in my life. I play the role of father. I play the role of educator. I play the role of husband, right? And I've been thinking about how easily we can let our entire identity get wrapped up in a role or even a title for work. So the prime example, for those folks that know me, I like track and field. I live and love track and field. As a former runner, but now just as a big fan. Allyson Felix is the perfect example of this conundrum, if you will. Not because she stepped away from track, but because she had to step away from the identity that the world gave her, Olympic champion, that she earned rightfully, but that, in a bubble, Olympic champion. After she had her daughter and spoke out about Nike's treatment of pregnant athletes, she risked her career to stand up for something bigger. For me, I sincerely appreciate it. But she ultimately had to ask herself, who am I when I'm not defined by the lanes that I run in? And what she found was that she was much more than just an Olympic champion. She's an advocate, a mother, a businesswoman, a voice from change. And I guess it's a reminder that we're more than one title, and sometimes stepping away is the only way to discover that. So zoom out, if you will. Something to think about. And if it's not always by choice, sometimes that door closes before you're ready to walk through it. And that's okay too. So because there are lessons, if we're willing and silent enough to look for those lessons and see those lessons. Brené Brown, those folks that know her, says connection is why we're here. It is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives, and I couldn't agree more with that. I think it's right on time. It's like we are human beings and we are social creatures, and we need that in our lives, right? But she also reminds us that connection requires us to be vulnerable, and vulnerability takes courage. And courage is showing up when you can't control the outcome, among other things. But that's one way in which we define it. I was meeting, who was I talking to? Last week I was having a conversation, or the week before that, maybe with, I think it was with my coach, but it might have been with my therapist. And we ultimately ended up in a conversation where we were talking about self-compassion and some of the work of Dr. Kristin Neff. And she adds another layer to this entire conversation when she's, she has this quote about what it means to be human. And there are so many different examples of that. But hers is to suffer and to struggle is to be human. And that one really just stops me in my tracks. It reminds me to meet myself with the same compassion I try to offer others, because I really do try to meet people where they are and offer and extend them grace. And I'll admit, self-compassion doesn't come naturally to me. I'm way more comfortable being the one offering the pep talk than receiving it. And lately, I've been learning that what's next isn't just about the grit, but it's also about that grace, giving myself permission to be a work in progress without apologizing for not having it all figured out yet. Because admittedly, I'm in a space and place where I'm like, feel like you should have the answers. You should have figured it all out. And and for the life of me, I haven't just yet. And I think that's okay. I think a lot of us are in that space, and there's no roadmap for this. So that's one of the things I want to encourage you to think about, giving yourself permission to be a work in progress, giving yourself grace. And as I continue to think about this on a larger scale, Ken Burns said something the other day. I was watching 60 Minutes, and he was talking about, I guess, his upcoming documentary, The American Revolution. So I'm excited to see that, looking forward to seeing it. But one of the things, he's going back talking about the history of our country in this interview, what the founders meant with certain phrases. And one of the things he emphasized that really resonated with me was this quote about the pursuit of happiness. Quote, "The pursuit of happiness is about lifetime learning in a marketplace of ideas. It's about becoming ever more educated to the responsibility of citizen." That line, it really helps me put things in perspective, if you will, because often we think about the pursuit of happiness in other ways. But when you think about, ultimately, it's about, becoming more educated to the responsibility of citizen, and how all of these ideas and the learning that we do will help us with that. It is both exciting and, ironic when I think about the current temperature, at least politically, if you will, because there doesn't always seem like we're using that definition of happiness or the pursuit of happiness. So that line also reframes what's next as not just a personal question, right? So, but a collective one. What am I becoming? Yes, but also how am I contributing? How am I showing up for something and someone, some moment bigger than me? And I think that's part of the conversation around purpose, because purpose can't just live inside my journal. Those folks that know I like to write everything down, time, date, events, activities, thoughts, just jot them down in my journal. But purpose can't live inside my journal. It has to live out loud, and it has to live in how I treat people, how I build community, how I stand for something, even when it's costly, because it costs. It costs to stand on your values. It's real easy to build community and talk about how you want to treat people when it doesn't cost you anything, right? So I want to put that out there. Purpose can't just live in my journal. It has to live out loud in how I treat people, how I build community, and how I stand for something, even when it's costly. What are you willing to pay in terms of the cost? Let me just invite you to continue to be in conversation with me, because I hope this episode doesn't sound like I'm chasing clarity right now, because I'm not. I'm not chasing clarity at all. I feel like I'm strengthening and building my capacity for listening, for stillness, for discernment. often talk about discernment, and sometimes I mean it in a spiritual way, but really I mean just being still and listening. So here's the invitation. Take a moment this week and ask yourself, who am I becoming now that I'm no longer who I was? And instead of rushing to an answer, just try listening. Just try waiting. And maybe, just maybe, trust that your blood already knows the way as well. All right? Thanks for listening to Just Curious with Rob Evans. I really appreciate you all jumping in on this particular episode. And I hope if something here stayed with you, you'll share it with someone who might need it. And you'll join me next time as we continue exploring what's next. But before I go, I want to give a special shout out to my youngest daughter, Callie. She's been my behind the scenes technician, making sure all of the technical pieces actually work. Callie, thank you for your patience, your skills, and for helping me bring this vision to life. I couldn't have launched Just Curious without you, so I appreciate you. And you are my editor, if you will. So, all right, folks, that's it. Just Curious with Rob Evans, where the questions are the compass. Let's keep following them together. And we out.